But I was going to this one middle school in the sixth grade, and I had to fight all the time. When I tell you I had to fight all the time. It- What's up? How you doing? Welcome back to A Moment in Time with yours truly, Aaron Thomason. I'm excited that you're with me, but I want to know, did you give this to 3 people? Did you bring people with you? Are you letting the big fella work for you? All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. So recently we've talked about the environment has to be conducive for our growth, right? Because we know that clarity breeds confidence. And as we understanding and getting that clarity to breed that confidence, we need to be clear on who we are, where we are, and where we're ultimately going. All right. And our environment is indicative of the answer of the question of where we are. And if that environment isn't conducive for growth, it becomes a little blurry for us to be able to understand how we can take the next step that in the direction that ultimately it will allow for us to be successful. And so you all know that when we do the moment in time, I let you into my business a little bit. So I need you to be gentle. So I got 2 stories. And ultimately, just before I turn the camera on, I actually forgot about these, but I really want to share these with you. So there was a point in time, and I got to give credit to my grandfather who planted the seed. My parents had it in us too, is that all 3 of us, me, my brother, my sister, are good academic folks. Some of us were nerds earlier. Some of us are nerds later. We are 3 very intelligent individuals. I don't mind flexing. I don't mind talking about it because those are facts. All right. But there was a moment when I was in middle school. I was going to this one school. I'll keep the name of the school out. But I was going to this one middle school in the 6th grade, and I had to fight all the time. When I tell you I had to fight all the time. It was in the hood. I grew up in Detroit in the late, in the 80s and the 90s. And guess what? It was some tough folks. Like we got stuff that we dealing with. I'm seeing people getting pulled off of buses and getting beat up and, and folks gangs around and drugs, this and that. I'm seeing it all. And my middle school was no different. Now, my grades were phenomenal. Let me be clear. My grades were absolutely phenomenal. My parents didn't have any issues with my grades, but I had to fight every day at this particular school. And had I not moved out from this school, the environment was getting ready to make me have to do 2 things: survive and figure out how to thrive. The surviving piece was you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to keep them up off of you. Yep, the little dudes wanted to fight me because I was tall. They wanted to make a name for themselves. I was smart, so they thought I was better than them, so they wanted to fight. Like, there was a reason I was fighting all the time. So I got to learn how to survive, but I better be able to thrive because I got to go home and deal with my folks too. So I felt like in that school, I was getting ready to be an intelligent hoodlum because I ain't had no other choice. That's what the environment was getting ready to breed out of me because it wasn't conducive for me to just go to school, hang out with my friends, get good grades, and not have to deal with anything else. I had to deal with it all. That's just how it was growing up in the city during that time. Praise be to God. We got a chance to move to the other side of town. And when we moved, I went to a different middle school, and that middle school was more conducive for growth. Then I actually, in a limited time of being at that middle school for the last 2 years, actually ended up being the valedictorian because the environment was conducive that I didn't have to figure out how to survive every day. I could focus on my academics so I could thrive. All right, that's one. The other one, remember we talk about self-awareness, but it still is about the environment, is that by this time I'm in high school. I shout out my high school all the time, Cass Tech, greatest high school on the planet. And at this time I'm going to Cass Tech, though it wasn't a crazy part of the city, they call it Cass Corridor, crack houses, prostitutes, and, city buses and all that other stuff. It was one of the best schools. And it also was an environment that was conducive for me to not have to worry about thriving, right? But I could not surviving, but I could just thrive in my academics and my athletics. And that was a great place for me to go. But there was a point in which that was in jeopardy because I had gotten into this altercation with some guys about something dude said about my mama, and all of us was ready to go fight, and it was getting ready to put us all out. And at the time, Cass had a no fighting altercation policy, and if you did it, your butt was getting shipped to your neighborhood high school. I'm not gonna throw my neighborhood high school out there and what it was, but I knew they was about that thug life. And I remembered back in my head from that middle school that I went to, I didn't want to have to go through trying to figure out how to survive and thrive. So what did I have to do? Because I was aware of how I operated in those environments, I was aware of what I needed to do and who I was and what environments I needed to be in. Guess what? I got myself on the straight humble and wrote this nice long letter about how sorry I was, how contrite I was. I was looking up Bible verses. I was talking about all the things that this school had done for me and how I wanted to continue my education and be part of the alumni. Oh, please understand. I was writing that letter to save my life, because I knew had I gone into a different environment, it was going to breed something different out of me, that it wasn't going to nurture the academics. It wasn't going to nurture the true athletics. It was going to bring out something different in me that I would need to survive before I could focus on thriving. So here's why I tell you those stories. I tell you those stories because it can make a difference. The environment you in can ultimately change and transform your life, because the environment that you're in is also surrounded by different people. And guess what? When I got around people who were more concerned about academics and athletics as opposed to thugging and fighting, guess what? I started putting more time into my academics and my athletics, and I was able to live that life. So your environment is so very important, and we still have to make the determination and the question, is it meant for me to stay or go? One of those, I didn't have a choice. It was by God's grace and my parents moving us to the other side of town got me out of that first environment in my middle school. Thank the Lord. Because I'm probably not sitting here having this conversation with you all had I stayed in that middle school. That is just real talk. But then I had an opportunity that I could either stay with my ego, I could stay with this tough life, or I could come on the humble and say I was sorry and be able to see if through some contrition and humility, I was able to stay at Cass, which allowed for me to be able to thrive in my academics and my athletics. And so that's what I want us to think through. Your environment, don't blow this thing off. You could be making tons of money, but I know that money you making is killing you. You could be in a relationship that you've been in it for years, and you feel good about the years that you've been in a relationship and what you've been able to accomplish. And my friends have been this and but we've been able to do. But that relationship, unless you get the environment right, is killing you on a daily basis. And what happens when you're in the wrong environment? It is like drinking slow poison. Yep, it's not going to kill you on the first day. It's not going to kill you probably on the second day. It's going to be a slow erosion that over time you will see and feel a person that you don't even recognize, because the environment wasn't conducive for you to grow, for you to thrive, but you've been surviving your whole life because you have valued the results and the trinkets of the environment more than you valued your gift showing up and you being a gift to the world and being free to be who you are, to live and be the image in which God created. So here's what I want you to be able to do. I need you to keep walking through that inventory of your environment, and let's figure out why you haven't made a change if the environment is killing you. Yeah. And guess what? You could be in an environment that it was actually the best thing for you at one point, but now the season has changed. Where you are is different, and you need a different environment, because just like a plant, at some point when the roots are too big, you got to do what? You got to repot it. You got to repot it. Me and those stories, I needed to be repotted in some places, and I needed to stay and still grow in some other places. That's what I want you to think through this week. That's what I want you to kind of start processing in your head, because you don't have to have it all figured out, but we need to make sure, if clarity is going to breed confidence, that we need to make sure that we're clear on where we are so we know how to take the next step in the direction we ultimately want to go. Because when we show up and don't surrender our authenticity, guess what? The world's a better place. Your heart's a better place. Your home's a better place. And that's where we want to be. So thank you. Thank you for being kind. Thank you for being gentle, as I told you those couple stories, a teenager and an adolescent, right? But do me a favor. Give this to 3 people. Let them hear these stories. Help them have some confidence and encouragement to understand that they can do it too. You can analyze your environment and do something different. I want you to do that. But I also want you to be able to look at, and I want us to really hone in on this question as we're starting to get answers. This is what I want you to do this week. Am I thriving or am I just surviving? That's what I want you to answer. Your environment is going to dictate whether you're surviving or whether you're thriving. And you can put that in the comments. And if you say, Aaron, I'm in an environment in which I'm just surviving, even though they may give you awards and everything else, hit me in my DMs, hit me in the comments, hit the link that's in the caption, hit the link, book an initial consultation. Let's talk through it. Let's talk through and seeing what an ideal environment for you looks like that allows for you to now thrive instead of just survive. Okay? And that's what I want us to be clear on, is that if we can get clear on the environments of where we are, what resides only in our mind can be the life in which we live. And we take that next step that leads to the next step to allow for us to be where we ultimately want to be. I appreciate you all. Thank you for being gentle. And here's what I want you to remember. Just because you're starting out on the journey to get better, it doesn't mean that you weren't already good. So until next time, I'll see you then.